Greetings, Internet. This is Dan Erwin, and I want to talk about games, or rather, yeah, gaming groups that don't use rules. Because I recently played in a revival of an old group that we used to play, I and a friend of mine. About pirates. Arr. Anyway, mm, we um, formerly we used a system. We used the Dark Eye, 4th edition, and that was all very well. It was already a very interesting campaign because there were lots of interesting NPCs that stayed with us because they all were on the ship and so on. The narrative really didn't depend too much on the information that the GM had for himself, because we hadn't reached any point in the campaign yet where it all depended that we went into the same direction as before. Rather, we had very good idea about the setting, about the people that were relevant to the setting, and we gave a rundown basically to the new GM, who did a remarkable job, which still fascinates me. It almost was like we never really stopped playing, even though he had not been there in the olden days. So that was brilliant. But he doesn't like systems. Um, I, for my part, think it is because he is afraid to lose control over the game to the system. You know, when you say, oh, this dice roll determines whether you live or die, and you as the GM don't want to let that happen. Or rather, um, one of his arguments is that the difficulty of any task given is arbitrarily chosen by the GM. So by this, the GM almost decides the fate of the role anyway, which I think is not that valid an assumption, because obviously any rule system and any dice roll mechanical system has certain um, standards against which difficulty is measured. I believe the best one that comes to mind right now is World of Darkness, with one success being, or rather with the exemplary task having a broken fridge, and 0 successes is you do not manage to keep your frozen foods frozen long enough to have the technician have a look before everything spoils, while 1 is you keep it going long enough for the technician, and so on. And the difficulty, or no, rather that's successes, but there's also one for difficulty, I believe. But anyway, so I say they're standard difficulties, so this task of assigning difficulties is not so arbitrary. But then again, it's his game, so he's the game master, so he is right. For me, it's that simple. And for the most part, it was very, very fun. It is very interesting if you don't have to belabor if your character wants to achieve something, whether he can or cannot achieve it, as long as the GM is not interested in either way. And you can simply tell what he achieves or doesn't. On the other hand, it takes suspense completely out the window. There is none. My character was originally a fighter type, so when we do fights now, I just lean back and yeah, I know I will survive because this GM won't kill me. And there won't be any big injuries. I know this, as long as, of course, it's not relevant to the story. So fights have lost all their interest. This is not, as I said, this is not entirely a bad thing. As I said, the narration of the rest of the story has been somewhat enhanced by this, but yeah, I don't feel any thrill when we do anything regarding our success or failure, because he is certainly biased towards us. That is something that I can say after, I don't know, 6 to 8 sessions, somewhere in that range. And so, yeah, we do occasionally do random checks using dice, but it's rather a is a high roll good enough, good for you, or a low one, and he doesn't say the margins beforehand, so he rolls the dice and then he decides, or not to accuse him of anything, he could tell us that it is determined by random chance when it's entirely not. Whereas in a normal game, you occasionally have the hidden dice rolls and so on, where the players don't see the outcome, which is basically the same situation. But there's also if you as a GM feel bound by this, you can do the open approach, where you roll openly, and it's not as if you lose all control. If you do interpret the system openly enough, then you can decide which rolls are made and which are not, and so you can still pretty much determine when players have the possibility of dying or not, or rather the characters. Hopefully no player will ever die in this session. That would be the worst. Yeah. So I also want to end this, this is rather a report, and also a question. Did you have similar experiences? Do you have ever played in games without rules or random determination of success and failure? And if so, did you had similar experiences with it, or did you experience it completely different from my perspective? Yeah, so that's basically what I wanted to get off my chest. Thank you for watching. I'm Dan Arabin, and goodbye.